I'm Jamie Buckingham. Shalom from Israel. A life insurance broker in Canada told me that his insurance company had conducted a survey checking on the causes of death of Canadian men. They had discovered that men who retire from work between the ages of 50 and 55 die much earlier than those who continue to work until they're 70 or older. They concluded that those who work as long as they can live longer. The reason: they retain some kind of purpose in life. Those who retire early and spend their years loafing often lose their purpose, and without it, their health. Man is created to work. Few people, a friend once reminded me, ever died of overwork in our age. People don't work themselves to death. No, they worry themselves to death. They get overstressed, which brings on all kinds of diseases. But from the book of Genesis to the writings of Paul, the Bible says work is honorable. In this hour, we will discover that we're created to work. In the video segment, I'm outside a unique museum at a place called Nath Ginnasar, a kibbutz on the shores of the Sea of Galilee in Israel, just north of the modern city of Tiberias. The Hebrew name for the Sea of Galilee is Kinneret. Comes from the Hebrew word kinor, meaning harp or lyre. Refers to the unusual shape of the lake, which looks something like a shepherd's harp, the kind used by King David. Galilee is also referred to in the Bible as the Sea of Tiberias, a reference to the city of Tiberias, which is located midway on the western shore behind me, just a mile behind where I am today. In Jesus' day, Tiberias was a brand new city built over the ruins of the Old Testament city of Kinnereth. It was constructed by Herod Antipas and named after the Roman emperor at the time, Tiberius. The most popular spot in the city was the thermal baths, hot springs that flowed from ancient volcanic rock. The city was completed in 25 AD, just 5 years before Jesus began his public ministry. Modern Tiberias is one of the most popular tourist spots in all of Israel for Israelis as well as for foreigners. Herod, a renegade Jew who had tried to please the Jews as well as the Roman overlords, had put a magnificent synagogue right in the center of town. However, since he built the thing over an ancient Jewish cemetery, the whole place was considered unclean by the Jews because under Jewish law, no Jew was permitted to enter the city limits. Therefore, Tiberias was inhabited totally by Gentiles, and there was no evidence that Jesus, who obeyed the Jewish law, ever entered the city. When Jesus left Nazareth to begin his public ministry, he moved to Capernaum, a fishing village located on the northern edge of the Sea of Galilee, just 10 miles around the lake from Tiberias. Capernaum was a city of 10,000. It was his home during the last 3 years of his life on earth. He performed more miracles there than any other place. The people of Capernaum, however, refused to respond to his ministry. Therefore, Jesus cursed the city, along with 2 nearby towns, Chorazin and Bethsaida. Unlike Tiberias, which has continued to flourish until today, all 3 of those cities were eventually destroyed and no longer exist. Only a few ruins along the shore give any evidence of the grandeur that was once Capernaum. Here, or near here, he met most of his disciples. Most of these disciples were fishermen. They came from the fishing villages around the shore of the Sea of Galilee. They fished at night, just as the fishermen today still fish at night. It's a beautiful lake. Often Jesus would go out with them and spend the night with them, helping them row and pull the nets. The nets were heavy and bulky. They were made of hemp rope, which rotted quickly when left in the sun. They were quite unlike the lightweight nylon nets used today. Much of the time was spent mending the nets, which often broke when they were pulling fish. During the day, when some of the men were hanging nets to dry and repair, other men would unload the fish and take them to the marketplace to sell. Jesus often helped his friends, pulling the nets from the boat, unloading the fish, helping them take their fish to the market. He was no sissy, this Jesus. He knew what it was like to put in a hard day's or a hard night's work. In the morning, after a night of fishing, these rugged fishermen would pull their heavy boats up on shore and unload their fish and then spend much of the day caulking seams and replacing rotted planks. It was a never-ending job. Several years ago, when the water of the Sea of Galilee was unusually low, archaeologists discovered, buried in the mud, this ancient fishing boat. Preserved across the years, it's the same kind of boat used by Peter, James, and John when they fished these waters almost 2,000 years ago. In fact, there's a possibility Jesus himself may have fished from this boat, if not certainly one just like it. The boat, which is simply called that officially, the boat, is located in this museum on this Jewish kibbutz of Naf Ginosar on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. You don't take a boat like this out on the lake for a pleasure cruise. When the wind was blowing, they might hoist a sail, but most of the time they rowed. Can you imagine 4 men rowing a boat like this across a lake like this, the size of the Sea of Galilee? And yet Jesus and his disciples often did just that. They were strong men. They were rugged men. They were outdoorsmen. Although Jesus was God, he was also man, all man. And when he was crucified, his strong young body nailed to a cross, he died like a man in horrible pain. And yet he died as he lived for all mankind. Today, remember, Jesus was God become man. He knows what it's like to sweat, to be tired, to work, to be discouraged. As you worship him, give thanks that he understands your problems. He cares. He's been where you are. He understands.